Hey everybody, I'm Jacob Castro and welcome to another video here on Jacob's Aquarium. So it's now officially 2 weeks that my new 80-gallon Planet tank has been set up, and I thought once again it was appropriate to make another update because you guys have actually requested in the comment sections of multiple videos that I've uploaded recently that you guys would like to see weekly updates, not every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, but weekly updates. So I'm going to give you guys those weekly updates on this tank, okay? All right, so as far as how the tank is doing, it's doing okay. I am having some algae issues, as I pretty much predicted. You know, every time I start a new tank, it happens, and I just really feel that algae is just something that, you know, you have to expect is going to happen in a Planet tank when you set one up. You can't really avoid it entirely. I think that's rather difficult to impossible to do. And it's just one of those things that you just have to deal with, and eventually your tank will mature enough to where it'll get past that and be able to self-sustain itself so that, you know, things like that don't grow. Nuisance things like that don't grow and spread out and populate in the aquarium. So the algae that I'm having issues with is some algae that I can't really identify, but the one that I can is blue-green algae. Blue-green algae, by the way, is one of the most difficult algae out there to get rid of. I would say it's second to blackbeard algae and hair algae. Those algae are really hard as well, but blue-green algae is one of those algae that does not really need a food source to survive. You know, it can just grow and grow and grow no matter what. It like produces its own food as far as what I've read on the internet, so it's really, you know, a self-contained algae. It doesn't need much to grow, and on top of that, it's rather toxic to most algae-eating fish and shrimp, so they don't touch it. So that's the algae that I'm having trouble with, and that's the algae that I was most dreading. I was really hoping that I wouldn't have any problems with that algae, because in the past I've realized how difficult it is to get rid of it, but it's happened. So as far as dealing with it, what I'm doing is I am simply relying on my aquarium to just mature. First of all, I think that, you know, you really shouldn't right off the bat just start dosing a bunch of algicides and a bunch of chemicals in your tank. I really think that, you know, while the algae does look very unattractive, and yes, you want to get in there and just freaking clean it, you know, I understand, but my view is I really just want to give the environment time to mature. I want to give the plants time to grow in, you know, to a point where they're consuming a lot of nutrients, the nutrients that the algae is feeding off currently. And, you know, I want my tank to just mature and kind of take care of itself, because that's what I've done traditionally with most of my Planet aquariums, and that has seemed to work. And it's rather surprising because, you know, you really don't think that, oh, well, to get rid of algae, you don't do anything at all. Now, as far as the blue-green algae, I've been reading a lot of things on the internet. You know, yes, I still do that, by the way. I know a lot of people see me as the expert here on YouTube for Planet Aquariums, but I still research, I still learn every day many different things about aquariums, because that's what you do, you know. You just got to keep learning and keep understanding and keep, you know, keep progressing in this hobby, because, you know, once you think you've learned it all, you really haven't. There's so much more to learn, you know. So as far as the stuff that I've been reading on the internet, there are a lot of different things that you can add to your aquarium to get rid of blue-green algae. And, you know I said I don't like chemicals and I don't want to dose a bunch of chemicals, but as far as getting rid of this type of algae, blue-green algae that really is kind of your only option, you know. Like I said, algae-eating fish don't eat it. Algicides really don't do anything to it. I pretty much have tried that in the past before, and I can tell you that for sure. And, you know, blacking out your tank for, you know, a week like some people suggest, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, does nothing to help any algae situation, doesn't do anything for this algae. So you really honestly can only rely on a chemical solution, you know. So I've read that you can use hydrogen peroxide You can use nitrates, or, or nitrites, whatever it is. Bunch of different methods, basically, I've been reading about on the internet. Um, but one thing in particular that really stuck out to me was the use of nitrates, to fight this type of algae. And how convenient, that the fertilizer package that I just bought from Greenleaf Aquariums, a PPS Pro fertilizer package, which I'll be making a video of pretty soon, includes I think they refer to these fertilizers as salts or whatever, but it includes one that's called, I know I'm going to get this wrong, sodium nitrate, phosphate nitrate, whatever it is, but I'll put a thing on the screen right now that shows, what I'm talking about. This stuff contains nitrate, and this is pretty much just typically meant for, the plants. It's a fertilizer. It's meant for your plants. But nitrate, as far as what I've read, can help fight blue-green algae and get rid of it. So, before I, make a video on this fertilizer package, the PPS Pro fertilizer package, I wanted to use it, just to see what results I'll get with it. That way I could really make a great video for you guys once I sit down and review it, So I started dosing that product, the fertilizer package product, whatever you want to call it, last week, and I started to notice that the blue-green algae, surprisingly, is starting to go away, The patches of blue-green algae that were growing in the tank quite rapidly, I can tell are just starting to kind of just melt away into nothing, especially the patches that were growing on the sand. At one point, there was a large patch on my sand bed that was just really annoying me, very noticeable, and now it just looks like a little circle, It almost looks like it melted away from the center out, So it seems like nitrate in the form of, fertilizers, like the ones I'm using, can definitely help get rid of blue-green algae because it's working for me. I haven't dosed any algicides. I haven't added any algae-eating fish or anything. Like I said, those things don't really even work for blue-green algae to begin with. But the biggest success I've had getting rid of this stuff is with the PPS Pro fertilizer package. Now, I would assume that you don't have to use all of those fertilizers contained in that package because it does include 5 bags of different fertilizers that you mix together in order to make a daily dose solution that you dose every day in your aquarium. I would assume that you could only use the nitrate or the one that I can't remember the name of, but I'll put on the screen once again for you guys. I assume you can use only that one if that's all you really need to do is get rid of blue-green algae. Now, I don't know that 100%, of course, so do that at your own risk, of course. But I would assume since that's the thing that is used to fight this algae, you could solely probably use that and have some good results with it, as I am. So that's pretty much the only issues we're having with the new 80-gallon Planet tank. But like I said, they're being resolved rather quickly, and it's all thanks to the PPS Pro fertilizer package and also my plants, So other than those things, the tank is doing great. I have had no issues with any of my water parameters, or the chemistry in my tank. Things have cycled officially. Water has cleared up, and plants are growing. Plants are, rooting very well into the substrate. So other than the algae issues, things are just going really great. So now let's talk about what the changes that I've made recently to the tank, and then lastly we'll get into a really big change that I'm going to be making to the Planet tank that I actually need your help on, by the way, as well. So stay tuned because we still got a lot more to cover. Now, what I did recently was I serviced this tank for the first time. The tank was officially up for 1 week, and the water was turning a very weird color, and that was just expected. When you first start a tank, you really normally have to do water changes a little bit more often than you normally would once a tank is established, just because, it's just like I've been saying, the tank is maturing, everything's getting cycled, and, so the water turned a really weird color, so I decided to do a water change. And the sand started to attract a lot of algae growth as well, but that's going away, as I just said. So I wanted to clean the sand as well. So that's what I did. Oh, and also the plants they were growing quite fast. However, I noticed that they weren't as full or as dense as I would like them to be. So I used a really old method that most hobbyists use in this hobby. And one that I actually used quite recently with my 50-gallon tank when it was set up with my Rotala rotundifolia. I simply just cut down all the plants, as you can probably see right now and as you can see in this footage. And I'm expecting that they will branch out from these, from the tops where I've cut them, and they will grow back a lot fuller, a lot denser. And that's really what I want. I want a dense wall of plants in this section of the tank. So I trimmed all the plants down, and it doesn't look that great now. It still looks good to me, but once they grow and once they produce new shoots and they grow, really dense and full, you guys will definitely see what I'm talking about. So stay tuned for future updates on the tank so you can check that out. So we cut the plants down considerably to get a denser, fuller wall of them in the back of the tank. And as far as cleaning the sand, I used a traditional gravel vacuum, and I just controlled the flow of water with the gravel vacuum by pinching the tube, just so I don't suck up a bunch of sand. And that seemed to work very well to clean the sand. I would say okay, not 100% clean. It's really difficult because the silica sand in particular, there's so many, I guess you could say, weightless pieces in it, microscopic pieces that tend to just, no matter how much pressure or how much suction you cut from the water going into the gravel vacuum, you'll still suck up some sand. So it's rather difficult to clean silica sand, but I did manage to clean it very well for the most part without sucking up a huge amount of sand. So that's what we did as far as the maintenance aspect or maintenance portion of, or the first maintenance of this tank or servicing, whatever you want to call it. Now, lastly, as far as the change that I have made to the Planet Tank, I took out the Riccia Island. There was so much debate about that in this tank. A lot of people said they hated it. Some people said they liked it. I had mixed feelings about it. I just wanted to try it out, guys. I just really wanted to try something different and see what would happen, see how it would look when it grew in. But after a while, I just really wasn't feeling it. It just really wasn't. It really didn't bring the realism to the tank that I was trying to achieve. So I took that out. I took the rocks out. Took the Riccia out. And instead, I am wanting to put a tree there instead. And you may be thinking, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, you want to put a tree in your Planet Tank. Yes, I do. Now, what I mean by tree is sometimes what people do in Planet Tanks to create, really dramatic and really realistic underwater aquascapes is they will use driftwood, in particular manzanita or branch driftwood, to create underwater trees. And they do this by simply sticking it in their substrate. Well, first, you have to choose a piece that does look like a tree. It has maybe a big center that looks like a trunk and, multiple branches. That's why manzanita wood is the best to create underwater trees. So first you want to do that. And what most people do is they will either use moss. Some people will use Riccia. I don't know if any stem plants or foreground plants like dwarf baby tears that have been used for underwater trees. But normally, I think people just use moss and like riccia and stuff. Well, riccia is technically a moss as well, so pretty much just moss. So they use moss and they tie it to the branches. And the best moss, in my opinion, to use for an underwater tree is weeping moss, because it has that, traditional to the name, weeping, look. It's just the moss, the stems of the moss, I guess you could say, just droop down, and it does look like, once it establishes on a piece of driftwood, it does look like a tree. It looks like, from a distance, it looks like leaves or something. It just looks like a tree. So that's the one that I'm going to be using as well. Now, for my underwater tree, I thought it would be better to do that instead of the Riccia Island. However, I had some concerns about the overall scale that I'm trying to achieve with my planted tank. Because if I add an underwater tree, in this tank, it would look fine. It would go well with the scale of all the other plants and the fish that we currently have in here. But if I add discus fish, it would just look rather odd, because you would have this underwater tree that's really not that large, compared to discus fish once they get to their adult size. And then you would have a 5 or 6 large fish along with this small little tree. So as far as the scale, it really wouldn't look right. Fish that would look better with an underwater tree or would fit the scale a little bit better would be fish like neon tetras, small fish, in other words, not large fish like discus. So I'm going to be putting an underwater tree in here, period. But that's my concern, and I wanted to know what you guys think. Do you think that if I add an underwater tree and discus fish, that the scale of this tank would just look really weird? And what I mean by scale, for those of you guys that don't know, scale in a planted tank is like, how can I compare this? Think of it as like, if you're into RC cars or model trains or whatever, they have different scales, to make things look, or to maintain the realism of them, So say you have an RC car that's, this big, well, obviously the driver section in the RC car is going to be quite small. So if you're going to put a figurine in there, like a fake little person, made out of plastic, you want to buy one that's this big. You don't want to buy one that's this big, because it would look like a giant compared to the RC car that's this big. So it just wouldn't look right. It would look like a giant person is trying to drive that little tiny RC car, and obviously that figurine wouldn't fit in there. So as far as scale in a planted tank, it's pretty much the same thing. You just want to make sure that everything fits together. Things don't look abnormally large or abnormally small compared to other things in the tank. And that's what I'm referring to with the discus fish. With the underwater tree, it's not that big. It's not this huge underwater tree, so compared to the size of the discus fish once they reach their full adult size, I don't know if that'll look weird or not, or if that would even be, achievable as far as still maintaining a scale to this tank. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like I said, I still have my heart set on adding discus fish. I really do. But the underwater tree is going in here, period. So if you guys think I should switch over and change my mind and get small fish instead, because I'm doing this change to the tank as far as the underwater tree, let me know. And for those of you that are, I guess, more experienced in the scale department of planted tanks, let me know as well what you think about this change and what it would look like with discus fish. I'm really curious to know. So, alright, that's basically it for this video, this update for my new planted tank, week number 2. I know this video is kind of long, but you know what? There's a lot to talk about. I really just wanted to explain things the best that I could. I didn't want to make a 5-minute video and just have things be talked about so quickly and so they're not understood. I really just wanted to make sure that you guys understand everything that's going on, So there's no confusion when, you know, I upload future updates on this tank and everything like that. So for those of you still watching, thank you. I really appreciate it. And stay tuned, because I'm going to be uploading a review for the Greenleaf Aquarium's PPS Pro fertilizer package very soon. And then of course after that we'll have future updates on the Planet Tank as well. And I'm also going to be doing live shows again, and I haven't figured out a date when I'm going to start that again, but I will hopefully figure that out very soon and announce that in a future video here on Jacob's Aquarium. Okay, so thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to check out my website, jacobsaquarium.com, if you're in the market for aquatic plants, and follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I was trying to think, sorry. Those websites. You can find my social media links on the front page of my YouTube channel and my website as well. Thanks again for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Have so much fun with your Planet Tanks, and I will see you next time.